everyone, and Michael. Welcome to the Tech to Exec podcast. And really, our idea with this podcast is to help executives understand what their IT team's saying when they're talking about solutions or risk and cybersecurity and those type of things, and really talk through why an executive would care about whatever the solution is. Also, we want IT directors and IT leaders to be able to talk to their executives in a way that it resonates in terms of risk. And so in all of our conversation, we would love to have that be a focus and always tie it into why would an executive care? So just to introduce myself, I'm the CEO of Valcom, and I'm Michael Linton, not to be confused with Michael Lynn, our guest here. And then we have Josh.
I'm Josh Linton. I'm the CIO at Valcom, and like Mike said, we're really just looking for opportunities to share with our customers, typically those IT leaders, how best they can communicate some of the technology needs they have with their executives. So we're really excited to have you on with us, Michael, and would love to really just start with you introducing yourself, a little bit about what you do at Arcserve and what Arcserve does, to solve some of these business problems.
Great. Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate you having me on the podcast. It's great to be here. My name is Michael Lynn. I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Arcserve. So what my team does is we're responsible for building our products, building our strategy, products, and then executing on that. So it's been great. I've been at Arcserve for about a year, a little over a year now. Before Arcserve, I've been in the cybersecurity space really for the last 20 years. Across a number of companies, Qualys, Symantec, VeriSign. So have a long history in kind of the security space and now into the data protection and resiliency space. What we do here at Arcserve is we're very focused on helping our customers. Really, we target kind of mid-market to small customers, protect their data and protect their data from if they're trying to back up their data, make sure they can recover their data and restore their data. Like the main types of things that our customers are trying to protect themselves from is number one, a ransomware attack, or number two, a good old-fashioned, data center issue or something like that, making sure that they can keep their business up and running and be able to recover quickly from any type of incident that happens. Arcserve has been in the market for a long time. We are, 40 plus years in the space. So one of the first people really in the data resiliency space. But really over the last year and a half, a lot of momentum at the company. We recently had a new investment come into the company, and really a new executive team came over as part of that. Myself included, new CEO, new CRO. So exciting times for us here at the company.
So I'm curious, taking a step back, a product manager, what does that really mean so I can understand that? And what's the journey to get there? Because it sounds like a really cool position.
Means different things at different companies. Typically I've grown up in that model where you're like the CEO of the product. So as a product manager, you have a core set of responsibilities, which are build a product roadmap, make sure you understand the competition, make sure you give good requirements to engineering, all of the things around kind of getting a product to market and making sure you're differentiating it and all of that good stuff. But then where like the broader, the CEO of the product comes in, you have to liaise with marketing, you have to liaise with support, you have to work with every group across the company really to make sure every team has what they need. So it's clear what the strategy is, it's clear what the roadmap is, how you're going to support it, message it, and all those kinds of things. So being a product manager is great. It's certainly a fun role, definitely never a shortage of things to do. And then typically people will come into product management either from like a technical engineering type of background, or sometimes like SEs, a lot of SEs come into product management, and then sometimes more from just like a strategy operational type of role as well. So
what was your journey? How'd you get there?
I started there for more of the strategy side and then kind of worked into product management. interesting, this was a long time ago at this point, but I was working for the head of the security business unit at VeriSign, and she kind of ran all the functional groups, sales, marketing, product management. And I was working on different kind of M&A with her, and she was like, you should go into more of an operational role. You can pick which function you want to go into, but pick one, and I'll help support that. So that was really how I got into my first product management role.
That's awesome. And so you come to Arcserve, they serve the mid-market. This is it's an interesting problem because no one loves to talk about backups. In fact, today, I don't know
We
what
don't even
happened.
call it backups. It's
I
called
like to
data
talk.
security, Mike.
I like to talk about data backup, just to be
Do
clear.
you? Sweet, because that's what it is, which people say data security, we're securing your data, and then they don't know what's backup, and backup's easy to talk about. So for an executive, I'd say we should talk about backups because of all the things that are super important, this is probably one of the most important and easy to understand things. I am always worried about what are the risks of Valcom as an executive, and worrying, hey, what could really hamper our problem with the Ingram Micro hack
Right.
last week. I thought, oh, everyone's vulnerable. How fast could we get up? I'm emailing our IT team. Hey, what's our backup? Can you confirm that we have it? Anyway, so talk to me about the core business problem, and how would you explain this to executives that Arcserve? Yeah, what do they do? Maybe what do they even do differently, and maybe even why backup's important in general. So I'm gonna let you kind of decide what you would say when you're talking to an executive about our backup in general, and then also Arcserve in
Yeah,
specifically.
I mean, I think as an executive, what are the things that you're most concerned about, right? And one of the biggest things that you're most worried about is, how do I make sure my business stays up and running and I'm able to do all of the things that I need to do, whether it's take orders, support a customer, understand customers' mailing addresses so I can email them, like all of these things that are just associated with running a business. And that's a core concern that any executive is going to have. So then the question becomes, how do you do that if you don't have access to your data? Like, what happens tomorrow if all of your data is gone? What are you going to do as a company, right? You're not going to be able to do much, right? So a key part of making sure you have a resilient business is making sure you have access to your data, no matter what happens, whether it's a security attack, like you were just mentioning that happened to Ingram, or, a natural disaster, whatever that risk might be. How do you make sure you can keep your business up and running when something bad is happening to you? So at Arcserve, the way that we help you with that is, one, we make sure that you have those data backups, but number two, we make sure that we keep those data backups secure, so that when something happens, say that you get hit by a ransomware attack, and the ransomware attacker takes control of all of your kind of primary databases, how do you make sure that you have the ability to recover from another source? And that's the problem that Arcserve can help you with. It's not just actually making sure you can recover, it's how do you make sure you can recover fast? I was just actually talking to a customer recently, mid-sized kind of pharmaceutical company in Europe, who this exact thing happened to them. They got hit with a ransomware attack. When you get hit by a ransomware attack as a company, the immediate thing that you go into is absolute panic, right? Because you don't know what's happening. You're getting these ransomware threatening messages telling you we're going to delete all your data if you don't, give us the ransom. So the customers are in that state of panic. They're like, what do we do? Even if you've been trained on your backups and how to recover and all those things, you don't know at the moment because you're, again, getting a million different messages. So that's really where Arcserve can come in and help you. We can help you recover. The reason I heard about this was they reached out to our support organization. Our team helped walk them through the process to make it super simple. They were back up and running pretty quickly. So that's really kind of the core value that Arcserve helps companies provide. And our goal around that is not just to do that, it's to make it simple for you to try and automate much of the process. Really thinking about, when our customers need us, they need us badly, and how do we make it as simple as possible for them to get back up and running?
I liked how you called the data center going down or some of these natural disasters old school problems because we have the new ransomware. What would you tell an executive that's not that worried about ransomware and maybe your experience of what you've seen?
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to happen to us. There's a million companies.
I think that's a really common thing that an executive would say, right? We're maybe a mid-sized company, like I was saying, a small business. Who's going to come after us? Like, why would they do that? And the data actually says a lot differently. You know, something on the order of 70% of customers say they have been hit with a ransomware attack. I know that number seems high, so maybe people are exaggerating a little bit, but that was from a survey we did last year. And frankly, small to mid-sized companies are the sweet spot for some of these attacks. And if you go Google it, you'll see like ransomware as a service is a service you can go buy. And the reason why small and medium-sized companies are at risk here is because of exactly what you were saying before. They don't think that they're a big threat. They don't think they're a risk because, you know, they're just a small business. Why would anyone come after them? That's exactly why people go after them, because it's easy to do. You might not, you know, get as big a, you know, bounty as if you attack a huge hospital or a big enterprise, but it's going to be easy, it's going to be quick, and they're going to be able to take advantage of you because you probably haven't put the right safeguards in place. So kind of that mindset of I'm not at risk here is exactly the reason that they are at risk. If that makes sense.
Yeah. We definitely have seen, you know, more and more sophisticated attacks, especially along the lines of ransomware, even to the point where I believe we've had some customers whose backups have been encrypted or ransomed. Tell us a little bit about, I think, yeah, a little bit about how Arcserve protects against that, or how an executive might uh, protect against even that
Yeah.
type of attack where the ransom, you know, the malicious actors are going in and targeting backups, which they're starting to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a shameless plug in here for a minute, sorry. But we just launched a whole new set of, we call them our cyber resiliency products. Effectively, what they are is ransomware protection with immutable storage. So what immutable storage means is even if an attacker gets a hold of your standard backups, we're protecting your other set of backups, a second set of backups with an immutable storage mechanism, which makes it impossible to delete that backup, even if someone has taken control of your whole environment. So that's something that we're really excited about. Just launched a whole new set of products into the market. But the key is when you are in that attack mechanism, you have these backups that cannot be deleted. And that's typically what a ransomware attacker will do. And that's what products like immutable storage will help you prevent against. So whether you buy it from Arcserve or not, you know, all you know, these companies should really be looking at that type of immutable backup that really protects them against these kinds of ransomware attacks.
So as a CEO, one bit of advice or one really good tactical thing you could do is go ask your IT team, do we have backups? Are backups immutable?
Yep, exactly.
And if they say no, say what would it take to get there? Because if you have immutable backups, you are safe from ransomware. Is that what I'm hearing, Michael?
You are certainly much more
Safer.
safe. Like you're never 100%. So I don't want
Hey,
your
but now we know you tell the truth. That
you're much safer, let's put it that way. And you're going to be in a much better position. So that is kind of a key thing that, you know, CEOs or executives should be making sure of with their team, and that they're planning for this, right? Like understand that they are at risk and there's measures they can do to protect themselves, but they have to plan for it.
interesting. Besides them getting hacked, how have you seen executives be convinced that they're at risk?
I think today, with all of the news that's out there, it's becoming easier and easier to convince an executive that they need to do this. So I think we all see the news, we see Ingram as an example or others. It's all out there. So I think that is one key thing for that executive. And that's really, you know, the IT teams that we deal with know they need to have that protection. Sometimes they have that challenge with budget. I think this is something that helps drive that in the market. So that's a big driver. The other thing to look at is a lot of companies probably have cyber insurance. And as part of a cyber insurance offering, like those executives are gonna need to have some type of probably immutable backup and other security things in place. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, that's shifting gears maybe just a little bit. We're hearing a lot about AI, obviously. Talk to us a little bit about what you guys are doing around AI, if you see that changing backup and data security at all. I'm not sure that I've uh, read or really seen any activity in that space, but I'm just curious what you're seeing and what Arcserve might be doing in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like almost every company, I bet you guys are doing this too. Uh, Half of my conversations these days seem to be around what we're doing with AI. And I'll talk about it from kind of two angles. One, I run the engineering team and here, and a big part of what we're doing internally with AI is how do we leverage AI models to drive better code quality, better time to market, all of those kinds of things from an internal productivity perspective.
Hmm.
But part of that then becomes, well, how do we make sure that it's safe and it's compliant and we're not putting our code into kind of, public domain, right? So that's one side of what we're doing with AI, and we're investing quite a bit there. The second side of it, though, is, how do we build more AI into our products? And I'm frankly, I think a lot of people are talking about this at this point. But how do we really do that in a way that drives value or expanded value out to our customers? So there's two big areas that we're thinking about it, really focusing on our customer base. One is around this ability to detect threats faster. We're not a security company ourselves, but we see lots of data. And we see lots of data and anomalies that are happening with your data, where we feel like we can help complement whether you're using CrowdStrike or Microsoft or whatever security vendor you have to help provide an extra layer of security to our customers. And we're doing that through LLMs and trying to find anomalies in the data that indicate you're undergoing a malware attack is happening, as an example. And there's different ways we think we can do that, and we're working hard on that. There's another thing that we're thinking about too, which is more around AI agents and how to use AI agents to improve the customer support experience or even like the workflow experience. So when we look at, I want to go do this task, maybe you just say that to your, AI agent and it goes off and does that task for you. So those are two different areas that we're looking at it from an Arcserve perspective, and pretty excited about what we'll be able to bring to market over the next 6 months or so.
So you say you manage a team of engineers. I'm curious, as you've done that in your experience, any advice you have for a CIO managing a team of engineers, or what would you say like you've learned over your years and your experience doing that?
Give them hard problems to solve, give them the tools to solve them. And yeah, I think, I think you'll be surprised in terms of what teams can deliver on. I think that we always try to give our teams ambitious goals, make sure that they have the tools that they need to execute on them and the support they need to, and let them loose, and I think that's where you see kind of the greatest things happen.
I love that. Thank you for the perspective. I like that on AI and managing a team. Josh, did you have any follow-up questions about those
No, I mean,
things?
I think it's especially on the engineering. I come from an engineering background, and I think
I
giving
really
them
just asked it, Michael, so that I mean, our teams could be better. So Josh and I are brothers. He manages the engineer team. Sometimes I think he could do better.
that's fair.
Sometimes he thinks I could do better. And so instead of just saying that, I'm like, Michael, Lynn,
Can you tell
can
Josh
you
what to
tell
do?
Josh,
How to be
can you
better?
give Josh some advice? So pretty much you did
So I
great.
guess my follow-up question is, what would you tell a CEO how to be better at his job? No,
How
I'm
to be
kidding.
good with engineers.
To listen
Yeah.
to a CTO all the time, obviously.
But I do think giving them hard problems, that's what the engineers like to do, and following up, I think that's or giving them that is great advice, and something that we definitely could do. And I think talking to our customers, even, right, that's what we're doing with our customers, working with them to help them solve their hard problems, even though it's not the same as developing a software. So, but
Are you seeing other real world problems, like, or like scenarios or stories that are like, this story just sticks out because they had backups and they were freaking out? I mean, you gave a few, but I'm just curious others that you have experienced that you would share.
As customers reach out to us, and the ones that I hear about are really kind of these like, I'm in a panic mode type of situation. We did have one customer recently in a ransomware attack again. And they had actually, one of the products we have is like a tape backup solution, which is something that's been around for a long time. It's an older product that we have, but we still love that product. The customer had actually forgotten that they had those tape backups in place. And we were able to help them restore from those. So that was kind of a funny now that it's over, but like, sometimes customers don't even realize all of the different infrastructure that they've invested in over the time. So that was kind of an interesting one that came up recently.
Wow.
yeah, I recently talked to a customer that was asking me about a tape backup solution. And I remember years ago thinking tape is it's going to go away. Nobody's going to want to use tape anymore, right? And then turns out it's a great solution to, I mean, great might be a stretch, but it's an immutable backups target, right? I mean, you can't delete a physical tape, and so it really does have some protection capabilities that are useful with ransomware,
Yeah, it's the original immutable storage, right?
Yeah,
Definitely
exactly.
air gapped, and because it's just sitting in a warehouse somewhere or something, right?
Yeah.
So
So
that was an interesting one.
Let's go backwards to everyone selling tape. We are the number one tape backup solution reseller. Let's see how that goes. They get investment for that company.
yeah.
All right. So, as far as IT, cybersecurity, infrastructure, you see a lot of things. You have insight into many companies. Any key trends, risks, or anything you're thinking about that you would want to tell business executives?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest trends are what you think, right? Everyone is talking about AI. Two things that I think about there is one, obviously, how do you drive AI to help accelerate your company performance? But number two, how do you make sure your AI models are safe, compliant, backed up also, right? Recoverable. So I think those are two things that I hear a lot of people talking about from an AI perspective right now. How do I leverage the opportunity with AI, but how do I make sure that I'm protected in doing that? And then on the IT side, the thing that I continue to hear, especially from our customers, is the market is getting tight out there. So it's like, how do we do more? And our IT teams continue to struggle with, I've got too much to do. How do I get more kind of maybe managed services around it? Or from like a vendor perspective, how do you give me more automation so that I can deliver more with less, right? Which is unfortunately a trend that has been around for a long time. But for those of us that have been in the space for a long time, we know that's probably the way the trend will continue to be. So how do we help that guy deliver more, who might be one person, it might be a small team, but continue to deliver for their company?
That's great. I think you mentioned these IT teams who are trying to do more with less, right? And I think working with some of the executives who aren't very technical. Do you have any advice either for the executives or for kind of these IT teams and the communication between the two, and really how to make sure that they're learning how to navigate these technology decisions where you have kind of one side that's pretty technical, executive side that maybe is less technical? Do you have any advice for, how they can kind of solve some of these problems together?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the IT side, you've really got to talk about all these different solutions you want to do or things from a business benefit perspective. right? Like, what is the value that this is going to drive to the business? Like we were talking about earlier with immutable backup. Hey, it's going to help you kind of keep your business operational, right? So I think it's important for IT teams to be able to talk in business terms in terms of the value that their investments are going to bring to the business. And then I think from an executive perspective, I do think all of us got to figure out how can we deliver on our goals and how can IT help us do that, right? Because there's so much automation out there. I'm sure you guys have this as well, right? We have aggressive goals that we're trying to hit. We have limited budget in order to do that. So how can we leverage technology and investments to best do that? And a lot of times it's through kind of your IT teams.
How have you seen IT teams learn to speak and or sell to their executives better? Have you seen any team go from, or even in a specific scenario of it really is not being able to communicate with the executives the business problem because they already see the problem's apparent to them. This happens all the time with Josh and myself. He understands the problem, he understands the solution, and I don't. And he's like trying to explain it to me, and it's just like, well, I don't even understand why that's a problem. Like what's the downside? Like what's the risk of this? Have you seen any team and or specific leader get to that, and how do we train that? How do we teach that?
Well, one way is to use ChatGPT. No, just kidding.
Yes,
Kind of.
Smart.
that's a great
Actually
answer.
not
Great
kidding,
advice.
but, I do think you can ask whether it's ChatGPT or others, right? Help me build a business case, taking kind of the technical jargon out of it, right? Because as a CEO, you don't really care as much. I mean, you might care, but like all of the bits and bytes and the technical details are not really what you want to hear. It's like what's the benefit? What's it going to cost me? What are the risks, right? So I do think tools like ChatGPT can really help in this case. So that's one tip maybe I would give somebody. And because it's pretty good.
I love that
Great
because
advice.
also as Valcom, we could also give that tool to them. We run it through our prompt and say, here's this for the technical team. You love all the specs and the problems that it solves for you, which are actually different problems and priorities than your executives. Oh, by the way, we ran this through our prompt and here's how you would communicate it. That's a good idea. Now we have a way to use AI that might help us. Just kidding. Just kidding. We're using it all over, just like you say, starting to implement it. Well, thank you, Michael. This has been a really good conversation. I appreciate you taking the time. I really appreciate your perspective. We love our partnership with Arcserve, and thank you for continuing to build things with your team. And we are so grateful for the time that you spent with us.
Yeah, and
Great.
if you want to learn more, any of you that are as you listen and want to learn more, check our show notes. We've got some links to Arcserve and some of the things they're doing. And I just want to echo what Mike Linton said, that we really appreciate having you on, Michael. Thank you.
No, I mean, I really appreciate you guys having me on today, and enjoyed the time with you guys, and certainly look forward to our partnership as well.